So the paper will be like a check. So Ahmad Sukarno decided that the Indonesian rupiah would be redeemable in gold, and he fixed the rate. But the people who want to rule the world, they had made that haram. In the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund. So they had to launch a coup via a crooked man called Suharto to get rid of Sukarno. So there were three. And then long later came Najmuddin al-Bakan in Turkey. And if this lecture were to reach you in Turkey, I want you to remember Najmuddin al-Bakan, because that was the last leader you had. That was the last leader you had in Turkey. Because he put the gold dinar up in front of the people, and he said, this is money. Nobody dares to do that today. Nobody dares to do that today. In 1944, we have another 5 minutes before the Azan. Let me take you to the conference that took place when the Second World War was coming to an end. Allahumma Jalla Jalaluhu. So we continue inshallah after Salat. Bismillahi awwaluhu wa akhiruh. What is the story? How did they do it? How did modern Western civilization get us to surrender the Khilafah state? How did they get us to surrender the free and the fair market and introduce the banking system to destroy the free and the fair market? How did they get us to surrender money? That is a story which ought to be told. The most important actor at work in every single one of these battlegrounds was Britain. Britain led the way in getting us to surrender the Khilafah state. Britain led the way with the Bank of England, which was established somewhere around 1796, I believe. I can be wrong. To get us to surrender the market, the free and the fair market. And Britain got us to surrender money as well. And so if you pledge your loyalty to Britain, you couldn't be serving Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And that's what Muhammad Iqbal did. If the people of Pakistan and the people of India are not aware of it, I ask you to do your homework. Up to the day he died, Iqbal was a loyal subject of Britain, pledging his loyalty to the British Crown and the British government, yeah. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, was a loyal British, pledging his loyalty to the British Crown, to Britain. The All India Muslim League were all people who pledged their loyalty to Britain. Amongst the ulama, there were those who refused to do that, and they went to prison. But the people of India and Pakistan chose to abandon the scholars of Islam and to follow those who neither knew the Islam, the Quran, or were unaware that Allah had prohibited in the Quran their pledging their loyalty to Britain. They didn't even know it. And so he became Sir Muhammad Iqbal. I'm not disrespecting him tonight. because he was a great scholar and he's a great poet. But somebody has to set the record straight. If I do this in Pakistan, they'll arrest me. So it has to be done from outside of Pakistan. Somebody has to set the record straight. Britain played the most strategic role of all in every single one of these battlegrounds. And yet the founders of Pakistan pledged their loyalty to Britain. And yet I must believe that you are serving the mission of Islam? What a joke. What a joke. What Britain did was what the banking system is now doing. The bank has so much money, that's all, but the bank lends 10 times more. It's called fractional reserve banking. It is unjust. It is a system of legalized theft, and you should have your hand cut off for that. But they established the Bank of England to become the big thief of all. And so the sterling pound is riding high. Britain can lend. Britain can become the money lender of the world. Because Britain has so much gold, but Britain is lending so much paper. And all that you have to do is get off what is known as the gold standard, and then you can print the paper. So that's how it started. With paper, which is no longer redeemable in gold, and the bank issuing more paper than you have gold. The sterling pound used to be a gold coin. And then one Sunday morning, perhaps while they were in church, it became paper. And so you have a monetary system now emerging in the world in which the British pound is the supreme currency, the international currency. And Britain becomes the money lender of the world. And Britain is becoming richer and richer. Whoever owns a bank is very rich. Why? Because you can make money out of thin air. And they call it fractional reserve banking. But the real story that we have to tell, and somebody should teach this story to the scholars of Islam, the ulama, because they don't know it. The real story doesn't begin with the Bank of England. The real story begins after the Second World War was coming to an end, when they came together in an international conference in a place called Bretton Woods in upstate New York. And the leader of the British delegation was a very famous economist called John Maynard Keynes. And Britain went to the conference as, you know, His Imperial Majesty, hoping that they'll be able to salvage something for the sterling pound. But the time had come for Pax Britannica to go. And the time had come for Pax Americana to replace Pax Britannica. Because in the Quran, in Surah Al-Mursalat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said something, but we didn't catch it. Now, he said, Intaliku ila zillin ذي ثلاث شعب. Proceed now. Let the historical process now proceed to a shadow which will now descend upon the world, a shadow. And this shadow will emerge in three stages, When Imran gives his opinion in interpreting the Quran or interpreting the hadith, I beg of you, never, never, never to accept my opinion. I can't do more than that, can I? Please tell that to my critics for me, please. Never accept my opinion unless and until you are convinced that I am correct. That's the way I was with my teacher. And that's the way I want you to be with me. So if I make a mistake and you continue to perpetuate that mistake, what kind of student you are? But if you correct your teacher, mashallah, may Allah bless such a student. So if I correct Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, I'm not doing anything disrespectful. Please understand that. I say that the three shadows represent the world order of Britain, Pax Britannica, in which the sterling pound now controls the world of money. And then Pax Americana, which replaced Pax Britannica. And then the US dollar replaces the sterling pound. And now we have arrived at that moment in the historical process when I, as a student of international relations, that's what I am, I recognize that the United States is now in irreversible decline. You don't have to believe me. Check it out. There's a great war coming because that's what they use. They use big wars to bring about fundamental change. And that a new actor will come to replace Pax Americana. I recognize it as Pax Judaica because their objective is to establish what we call the Khilafah state. That's what they want to do. But they're going about it the wrong way. And therefore that a new monetary system will replace the existing monetary system. So goodbye to the US dollar. And when the US dollar goes, the euro will also go. Yeah. And the entire system is based on the dollar. Your ringgit does not have any legs on which to stand. I'm sorry to tell you that. I'm sorry to tell you that. Your ringgit has no legs on which to stand. No. And when the US dollar goes, your ringgit is also going to go. And every single paper money in the world will collapse with it. You don't have to believe me. You could follow Mufti. So these are the three stages of the shadow. This is my opinion. And do not accept my opinion unless you're convinced that I am correct. But you can't say I'm wrong unless you tell me what's right. Is that asking that? Is that asking too much of my critics? I'm getting more and more critics all the time. Yeah, some of them probably are paid to become my critics. So I ask you, you cannot say I am wrong until you say what is right. So come forward and tell us what is right, and hope that nobody laughs at you. This is what they brought into the world at Bretton Woods in 1944. A monetary system through which they effected the passage from the sterling pound as the international currency to the US dollar to replace it. That is Bretton Woods. From Bretton Woods came the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. And these two, Bretton Woods and the IMF, brought into being a monetary system which we have to explain to you briefly. 40 years ago when I was in the classroom, listening to this for the first time. I am a student of philosophy. I did my master's degree in philosophy. And I'm a student of Islam at an Institute of Islamic Studies. And now I'm in the classroom of international relations, and I'm listening to international monetary economics for the first time in my life. And I'm hearing these strange things. That paper will now replace gold. However, in this world of paper, one paper is chosen to be redeemable in gold. But why not the Pakistani rupee? Why does it have to be the US dollar? Dr. Mahathir asked himself the same question. Yes. There's something wrong here, something fishy going on here. That the US dollar is going to be, it will be an advantageous thing to be the US dollar. Something is fishy going on here. That's what Dr. Mahathir thought. That's why he studied the subject and then he blasted the system as bogus and unjust. That's what he did, Dr. Mahathir, before he retired. Only the US dollar would be redeemable in gold, meaning you could convert US dollars to gold. That's the meaning of the word, redeemable. But what about all the rest of the paper? Where is the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? The Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam now is a slave to the US dollar. Really? Is that what we did? You will not know the value of any paper currency in the world of Islam except in its relationship to His Majesty the US dollar. Is that where the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam has gone today? What is the value of the Pakistani rupee? Oh, so many rupees to the dollar. What is the value of the ringgit? So many ringgits to the dollar. Something fishy going on here. So all of these paper money which have no redeemability in gold are all bogus and fraudulent and haram. All. And the ulama in Indonesia in the late 40s when Indonesia became independent, they recognized it. Or was it 50s? Yeah. The ulama in Indonesia recognized it. So what about the rest of the world? Oh, the US dollar, however, has a fig leaf to hide its shame, because at Bretton Woods they decided the US dollar would be redeemable in gold. And they fixed the price at $35 for 1 ounce of gold. Before this, the US dollar was redeemable at $20 an ounce of gold. $20 an ounce of gold. And then the US government, with the aid of the Federal Reserve Bank, which had just been established, did a rip-off of the American people. I have to tell you the story. They announced that it is now illegal to use gold as money in the United States. It is illegal to keep gold in your home. You could keep jewelry, but not gold as money. The law requires that every American resident must sell your gold to the government at the rate of $20 US for 1 ounce of gold. And you can trust the US dollar because it prints there, "In God we trust." If you are caught with gold coins after a certain date, you will be charged $10,000 US and face 6 months in jail. That's called wickedness. So the American people had to sell all their gold to the government at the rate of $20 an ounce of gold, like a nation of jackasses. Or those who are not jackasses, they put their money in boxes and ship them out of the United States to Switzerland. Yes. Then after the United States had bought all the gold in the United States, the government, they did the unthinkable. They changed the price of gold. They say now the US dollar is no longer $20 to 1 ounce of gold, it is now 35. And you better buy back your gold before we change it again. This is 1933. And the American people had to rush to buy back their gold at $35 an ounce, and in the process, Uncle Sam ended up with 40-something% of all the gold in the United States, free of charge. You know, if you buy a gun, before you actually use the gun in battle, you'll want to test it. To go on a shooting range and you trial run. What happened in 1933 was trial run by the Federal Reserve to see if the system will work. That by changing the value of the paper, bring it down lower from what it was, it's sometimes called devaluation. Devaluation. But in the process, of course, Mufti doesn't know the subject, and the governor of the central bank doesn't know the subject. Call them on the phone, please, and tell them. When the value of the paper fell from 20 to 35, there was a massive transfer of wealth from the American people to the government. 40-something% of the gold was transferred. This was done at a national scale to test the system before it starts operating internationally, before it starts operating around the world. So now can you hear? If you have ears, you can hear. It's like a vacuum that you use to clean the carpet. A vacuum, a suction pump. Can you hear the suction pump? As the value of the paper money falls, like a suction pump, the wealth of the Algerian people is being suctioned off. We have some Algerians here tonight. One from Britain, one from Germany, how many other Algerians we don't know. The Algerian dinar is now at about 105 or 106 dinars to 1 US dollar. The Bangladeshi taka is somewhere around the same. The Pakistani rupee is somewhere around the same value. The Indonesian rupiah is about 10,000 to 1 US dollar. And as a consequence, during this period of time, while the ulama of Islam, let me restrain myself and restrain my language that I don't be impolite. While the learned and distinguished scholars of Islam had time to teach every other subject underneath the sun. That's what they do. From 1944 until today, the suction pump has been at work, sucking the wealth of our people. making our people poorer and poorer while they become richer and richer. And so you used to have something called the proud Ottoman army. Turkey was the Ottoman Empire was a great Islamic empire. And we were proud of the Ottoman army. Well, guess what? The people who used to serve in the Ottoman army, killing the innocent Christians, killing the innocent Orthodox Christians, that's what they're paid to do. These people who used to be such fierce warriors in the Ottoman army, guess what I saw them doing? Because of this monetary system. I saw all of them selling gasoline in petrol stations in Long Island. Yeah. Anywhere that I stop to buy gasoline for my car in Long Island, it is Turkish young men selling gas. And yesterday you were in the Ottoman army. Singapore is the model state. The model state. Tell me how many Singaporean women, if you are annoyed with me for mentioning the name Singapore, how many Singaporean women will work for the wage that you pay to the Indonesian maid? If you are honest. If you have one grain of honesty in you, is there any Singaporean woman who will work for that wage that the Indonesian slave is working for? She's my daughter, you know. Yeah, she's my daughter, she's my sister. And you tell me this rubbish? Oh, but she can, when she takes the Singaporean dollar to Indonesia, it's worth so much. Is that all the sense you have? Is that what Islam taught you? This is the market here in Singapore. In this market, can you find one Singaporean woman who will work for the wage of a slave? None. None. But I have news for you. Thank Allah that there is the grave. Thank Allah that there is the grave. Because every single Indonesian maid you had, and you paid her the wage of a slave, you're going to pay for it in the grave, yes? Make tawbah. Make tawbah. It doesn't matter whether you are Chinese or Malay, or whether you are Christian or Buddhist or Hindu. The religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, has zero tolerance for oppression. None, no tolerance at all for oppression. And if you oppress anyone, you're going to pay for it in the grave. So they started off the monetary system by giving to the United States dollar an unfair advantage. It is the king currency. It is the only money which is redeemable in gold at $35 an ounce of gold. And all the rest of the paper money in the world is linked to the US dollar. You have no legs on which to stand. None. But that's not all the story. You and I can't go to the United States and offer our $35 and ask for an ounce of gold. No. Only a central bank can do that. Nobody else can do it. And since we just won the war, we have power. No central bank will be so stupid. No central bank will be so stupid to ever come with US dollars to ask for gold. They're all scared. So the system is designed to allow the United States dominance in the world of money until Charles de Gaulle came along. And he did what no one dared to do before him. He said, I want the gold. When he stood up in 1966 in the French National Assembly and denounced the monetary system as unjust and oppressive, he then ordered the French National Bank to send the US dollars to Washington and demand the gold. And for that they hated him, because if everybody else does this, the system will collapse. Why? Because the United States is doing what Britain had done before. You're printing more paper than you had gold. So you're becoming richer and richer and richer, but doing it fraudulently. So Charles de Gaulle had to go. The system is no longer even 1% halal. It was 1% halal when one currency was redeemable in gold. 99% is haram, but at least 1% is halal. But this 1% which is halal is even less than 1%, because the paper is being used in the market. So it should be redeemable in gold in the market. But it is not redeemable in gold in the market. It is redeemable in gold only to central banks, and central banks will be too scared to do that. So it is 0.001% halal, and the rest of it is haram. But this is, of course, too difficult for Mufti to understand. Too difficult for Mufti, and waste of time trying to teach Mufti. The system is almost totally haram. And yet we do not have the world of Islamic scholarship recognizing it to be haram. We surrendered money without even a fight. That's what we did. But these people were very cunning. They knew that this monetary system would remain vulnerable if it were to be challenged with gold. If anyone were to have enough gold to make their paper money redeemable in gold, which is what Ahmad Sukarno wanted to do, then that one currency would bring down the rest of the monetary system. Just one currency which is redeemable in gold because you have enough gold, and you only issue that much paper for the gold that you have. That one currency will bring down the whole system. So in order for this monetary system to succeed, you got to get the gold of the world. How to get it? And it must be in your pocket. You can't trust them. It has to be in your pocket. How to get the gold of the world? What they did, and it was very strange to me as a student sitting in the classroom at the age of 29, I'm now 74, that they created something called special drawing rights, a new kind of money, SDR. And they said every country in the world must now declare how much gold you have. Meaning gold reserve, not jewelry, gold. How much gold you have. And it is prohibited for you to sell gold without informing the IMF. If we ever catch you selling gold or buying gold without informing the IMF, the consequences will be terrible for you. And remember, we're ruling the world. So every government now toe the line, and they inform exactly how much gold they have. So now they know how much gold there is in the world. And the IMF Articles of Agreement prohibits you from using the gold as money. Number two, you have to take 25% of your gold and send it to Washington. Put it on a ship and send it to Washington. 25% of your gold. And the jackasses of the world put 25% of their gold on a board of a ship and sent it to Washington. And the IMF said, trust us, we're going to keep it safe. Keep it safe for you, yeah. So now they have, by simply making a rule, they have 25% of the gold of the world in the pocket. If you dare to ask back for your gold,